Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Lori Cappy and I'm with IE Communications. Very happy to see a lot of familiar faces here and just wanted to let you know a few short housekeeping items before we start the program. First of all, basic housekeeping. If you haven't noticed it, the bathrooms are here. I'm going to ask you all to really be able to focus today. So if you could wean yourself, at least for most of the day, from your cell phones. Unless you want to do any tweeting or texting about the conference. So we do have a hashtag CalYouth, and we'd encourage you to send out your thoughts. I want to also just let you know, which I think most of you know, that this is being live streamed through LA 36, because we really wanted to make sure that this information was available statewide. We're also going to be recording it, and it will be on the YouTube channel of IE Communications for those of you who want to see it later or want to notify your friends and colleagues. And a few other quick things is that for those of you who didn't want to be filmed, we do have a table, and it's out of the line of sight, which is in the corner. So if you don't want to be filmed, please take one of those seats, because otherwise you are going to have consented to be on camera today. So for those of you who were walk-in and didn't register, I just wanted to let you know that as well. I wanted to do a few quick thank yous. One to Homegirls for providing this lovely breakfast, and for those who don't know Homegirls Cafe, check it out. They'll also be providing lunch as well, and we'll be around to help you get caffeinated or whatever you need later in the day, or cookies, etc. I want to also say a few quick thank yous, and I know that Janine and Mark will do the same, but I wanted to particularly do a shout out to the Alliance for Children's Rights, John Burton Foundation, and Foster Club, who really helped us quite a bit with putting together the panels, and particularly the youth leaders that are going to be represented today. So they were really very helpful. And please make a point of going to some of the youth leaders, because they really have the lived experience that tells us way more than some of the data shows as well. And then now I'm going to, two other quick things. In your packets, there's also an evaluation form, and it's really helpful because, everybody does these kinds of events all the time. So it's very helpful for us moving forward to make sure we met your expectations. And a quick plug for another project that we're doing with Chapin Hall, which is called CalYouth in the Loop. And there's going to be some material. Thank you, Dominique, gives a shout out. We have some materials about CalYouth in the Loop, which is where we're trying to get a real feedback from youth across the state about what they think of these findings, in addition to the dozen or so you're going to hear from today. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our key sponsor for the event today, which is the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation, and the Senior Program Officer, Janine Balfour.
All right, can people hear me? Good morning, everybody. Pleasure to be at the Japanese American National Museum. My first time here, absolutely stunning room. So thanks for joining us here today to discuss the findings of the CalYouth study, which is the most comprehensive view to date of young people transitioning to adulthood from foster care in California. I'm happy to see a mix of representatives from our public and private agencies serving youth in extended foster care, from advocates, researchers, and most important, experts, foster youth themselves, in the room today to learn about the results of this multi-year study. Your voices and perspectives are incredibly valuable as we all seek to learn more about the experiences of youth aging out of foster care and how best to support these young men and women in leading fulfilling and productive lives. As many of you know, CalYouth is a 5-year ongoing study. It goes between 2012 and 2017. that evaluates the impact of extended foster care on youth outcomes and is intended to help the child welfare community assess and better meet the needs of youth who remain in foster care beyond the age of 18. In your packet, you can find an overview document summarizing the key findings of this wave of research. The study is the result of a public and private collaboration among the California Department of Social Services, the County Welfare Directors Association of California, and the University of Chicago. Funding and input were provided by our foundation, Conrad Hilton Foundation, as well as the Stewart Foundation, Walter S. Johnson Foundation, the Zellerbach Family Foundation, and the Annie E. Casey Foundation. It is now my great pleasure to introduce to you Mark Courtney, who's the lead researcher on this project, and I just feel incredibly fortunate to have him as part of our community. Mark is a professor at the University of Chicago School of Social Services Administration and an affiliated scholar at Chapin Hall at the University of Chicago. He's a national expert on child welfare issues and policies, in case you didn't know that. His current research includes studies of the adult functioning of former foster youth, an experimental evaluation of independent living services of foster youth, and the role of the juvenile courts in the operation of the child welfare system. Prior to moving into academia, he worked for 5 years in various capacities, providing group home care to teens in California's foster care system. He has a master's degree in management and planning and a PhD from the University of California, Berkeley School of Social Welfare. I can just say that from afar, I have admired Mark's work, and I feel really honored to be able to partner with him on the work that he's been doing in California. I think we're all very fortunate to have him as a researcher in the child welfare community. I feel like he's continuing to inform policy and practice. So without further ado, here is Mark Courtney.
Good morning. I want to start by thanking some folks, and then I'll get to the substance. And we're a little bit late, so I'm going to be quick in my introduction to the study. First of all, I want to thank the California Department of Social Services and the County Welfare Directors Association of California. You're going to hear a lot of information provided by young people in extended foster care and those who have left care, and from their caseworkers. And we would not have been able to do any of that without the active engagement investment of, active engagement and investment of the state and the counties. And we've had enormous help from those folks. I also want to thank our funders, the Walter S. Johnson Foundation, Stewart Foundation, Zellerbach Family Foundation, Annie E. Casey Foundation, and of course, Hilton, who's funded this event. The young people and caseworkers, some of them are here, they provided these data. We didn't, so I want to thank them. And IE Communications helped us organize this event, and some other folks, Alliance for Children's Rights, John Burton Foundation helped us put together these panels. And then lastly, I want to do a shout out to my team. We've got them all here. The Cal Youth team involves 4 doctoral students, Nate Ockpitch, Kunei Park, Justin Hardy, Huiling Feng, and 3 master students, Brooke Stevenson, Dominique Michael, and Brittany Kindle. By the way, Dominique and Brooke are both Californians like myself. So we got people from Korea, China, Chicago, California, bringing this to you. So why is this an important day? Well, I worked in the child welfare system in California back in the late 80s. 18th birthdays were bittersweet affairs. Basically, Friday was a good day because that meant the county would not ask us to leave, get the young person to leave on their birthday. They'd give us a couple more days till they get together to demand that bed back. So I confronted this issue of youth aging out of foster care a long time ago in my professional career. And at the time, we had a policy. Right then, we passed something called the Independent Living Initiative at the federal level. And the goal of this was we were going to give young people life skills so that by the age of 18, they would be independent. And I was not that much older than the young people, and I knew that was kind of a silly idea at the time. Of course, we did it because what else were we going to do? We basically, discharged them at 18. So fast forward to now, we just have a totally different policy context. Even the language of the federal legislation that deals with young people transitioning out of care has moved from Independent Living Initiative, Foster Care Independence Act to the Fostering Connections Act. And the older youth provisions of that law clearly, are focused on connecting young people to institutions and to people who can support them. So I think we've come a long way. What I want to do now is just give you a real brief introduction to Cal Youth and give you a sense of what it is we're going to be talking about today. So what we're going to do is share findings from a youth survey and a caseworker survey and engage folks in panels who are professionals, young people, advocates, both to respond to those findings but also what they're encountering as they work in the field. And we'll talk about it, and we'll also give you an opportunity to engage in discussion of those findings. The purpose of Cal Youth is to evaluate the impact of the California Fostering Connections to Success Act. Now, by evaluate, we don't mean thumbs up, thumbs down, was this a good idea? Certainly, we're going to look at what the benefits are and the costs are, but we're really trying to work with the child welfare services community here in California to improve the implementation of this law, assuming that the state is invested in trying to make this work. And so the data includes collection of data from young people in foster care, surveys of caseworkers serving those young people, and we also have access to a lot of government administrative data on earnings and public assistance utilization, things like that. Okay, that went too far. So the youth survey is collecting an enormous amount of information from young people across pretty much all the ranges of functioning and services that you would want to know about. And we've already done one survey and reported on that, and that's available. When the young people were 17 years old, there were 763 young people eligible, and we were able to interview over 95% of those young people. So they had all been in care. 16 3/4 to 17 3/4 had been in care for at least 6 months. Today, we're going to be sharing findings with you of conversations, interviews we had with those young people when they were 18 years old. Again, there were 724 young people eligible. 3 of them at baseline said, okay, this was an hour and a half of my time. I don't want to do this again. So they opted out, but only 3. And we were able to interview over 84% of those young people, and that's who you're going to be hearing from today. We also did a child welfare worker survey, and the purpose of this survey is to get the perspectives of these caseworkers on the availability of services in their county, collaboration with other systems, and also their take on the needs of the young people they serve. Our first caseworker survey just did a survey of caseworkers serving transition-age youth. What differentiates what we're going to share with you today from that survey is this time around we actually went out and sought the input of caseworkers for the young people participating in Cal Youth who were still in care. And so basically there were 295 caseworkers I'm going to keep this simple here. There were, as you'll see in just a minute, about 3/4 of the young people were still in care, and we were able to get information from over 95% of their caseworkers on Part A of the survey, which talks about services in the county, and Part B in the survey asks the caseworkers about the young person on their caseload. Some of these caseworkers had more than one. I think there was a particular person who had 10. I can't remember her name, but shout out to that worker. So a phenomenal response rate. I've done this a long time. I've never got a response rate like this from caseworkers, so they deserve a lot of credit. The young people, as you can see, are more female than male. They're racial and ethnically diverse, reflecting the population of young people in care in California. And I'm going to stop with this. We have some other stuff, but in the interest of moving on, we started a little late. I think the main thing to keep in mind, it's important, we're evaluating extended care in California. And so a lot of what we'll share along the way, some findings about how young people in care are doing compared to those who are out of care. Generally, when we share findings and we don't make that distinction, it's because there wasn't a distinction. So if we say to you 30% of the young people were employed and we don't say anything about care status, that means there really isn't any difference in employment on care status. But you can see at wave 2, and that's at 19, about a little less than 2/3 of the young people had remained in care since 17 and never left care. Another 13% had left care and come back, which is a really important characteristic of the California system, by the way. It appears, relative to a lot of places in the country, relatively easy to leave care and come back. And then lastly, about 1/4 of the young people were not in care. They had left care between the first interview and now, and they're no longer in care. So you're going to hear throughout the rest of the day comparisons between the folks who were in care and those who were out of care. This is what we're talking about, basically the young people who were in care when we talked to them second time. Some of them had left and come back. So I'm going to summarize ahead of the day the main takeaways around care status with a caveat. Where we see differences between young people in care and those out of care, they pretty much all favor the young people who remained in care. It's sort of basic measures of well-being. The young people who remain in care are doing better. Interestingly enough, the folks who left care and came back, if they differ, in some ways they look like they're doing worse than certainly worse than the folks who stayed in care over time. But there's beginning to be a bit of a message there that, not surprisingly, some people decide, well, we can make it on our own, and they try to do that, and things go south, and then they come back into care. So that's sort of, again, early look at this. The caution I want to lay out there is this entire report is descriptive. It's 180 pages long. If it's not up already, it will be on the Chapin Hall website later today. We affectionately call it the Beast. It's descriptive, so we want you to be careful about not going out for today and say, look, you know, the Cal Youth proved that extended care is a good thing. First glance suggests that it's achieving what it's intended to achieve, but we're going to want to do a lot more analysis before